Standing in the same bank where Sarah drained our honeymoon fund, I watched her signature on the withdrawal slip that ended our marriage. The ink was still wet, dated just 2 hours ago. $28,000, the teller had said, her voice cutting through my disbelief. Transferred to Pinnacle Ventures LLC. The same amount we'd saved for Bali. The same amount she'd promised was our future together. And it was gone again. Just like the last time I trusted her completely, when she'd sworn David meant nothing to her anymore. But this time I wasn't the naive husband who believed her tears. This time I was reborn, armed with the memory of how this betrayal would unfold. I knew exactly what David Chen's startup pitch looked like, knew exactly how Sarah's eyes would light up when she talked about supporting innovation. I knew because 3 days ago, I'd followed them to that coffee shop where she'd laughed at his jokes, touched his arm, and signed the transfer papers while I was supposedly at work. My phone buzzed against my chest. Sarah's text appeared on screen. "Hey, honey, had lunch with Mom. Home around 6. Love you?" The casual lie made my jaw clench. I'd seen her BMW parked outside David's downtown office an hour ago, seen her walking out with that same guilty flush she'd worn after their accidental meetup last month. The bank's marble floor felt cold under my feet as I approached the accounts manager. "I need to open a new account," I said, sliding my driver's license across her desk. "Personal, private, something my wife can't access." She looked up, reading something in my expression. "Of course, Mr. Martinez. Let me help you with that." My wedding ring felt like a weight as I filled out the paperwork. 28,000 gone. 3 years of careful saving vanished into David's dream of revolutionizing food delivery apps. Sarah had chosen him over us, over our plans, over our marriage. But she didn't know I'd already moved our emergency fund to my mother's account yesterday. She didn't know I'd been preparing for this moment ever since I'd overheard her whispering to David on the phone 2 weeks ago. "I can get the money, baby. I just need time to figure out how." The accounts manager handed me temporary checks and a debit card. "Your new account is active, Mr. Martinez. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "Yes," I said, pocketing the cards. "I need to make a withdrawal from my joint savings." "All of it?" Our apartment felt different when I walked in that evening. Same cream walls, same leather sectional Sarah had insisted on buying, same family photos lining the hallway. But now it felt like a stage set, a carefully constructed lie I'd been living in for months without realizing it. Sarah was in the kitchen, humming while she stirred something that smelled like garlic and wine. She'd changed into the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one that used to make my heart race. Now it just reminded me of the receipt I'd found in her purse. An identical dress, purchased the same day, returned the day after David's birthday. "Hey, baby." She spun around, beaming that practiced smile. "How was work? I'm making your favorite. Chicken marsala." I leaned against the doorframe, studying her face. The slight flush was still there, that telltale sign she'd been lying all day. "Work was interesting. Learned a lot about venture capital." Her stirring faltered for just a second. "Oh? That's random. Why venture capital?" "Client mentioned this startup called Pinnacle Ventures. Food delivery app. Supposedly got a major investment today." I watched her pupils dilate slightly. 28,000 from some investor. Pretty specific amount. The wooden spoon clattered against the stove. That's great for them. Small world, I guess." She turned back to the pan, shoulders tense. I could see her reflection in the window above the sink, the guilty expression she thought I couldn't see. "Sarah." "Hmm?" She didn't turn around. "Where's our honeymoon money?" The kitchen went silent except for the bubbling sauce. Her hand froze on the spoon handle. When she finally faced me, her expression had shifted to practiced innocence. "What do you mean? It's in our savings account." I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, and held it toward her. The balance showed $247.33. "Want to try again?" Her face crumpled in stages: shock, panic, then that familiar look of wounded defiance. "Marco, I can explain. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think." I pocketed the phone. "You gave David our honeymoon money for his startup. The same David you swore you'd cut contact with after I found those text messages." Tears welled in her eyes. Real ones this time. "He needed help, Marco. His app could change everything. When it takes off, we'll get triple our money back." "We?" The word tasted bitter. "There is no we in this decision, Sarah. You chose him over us, over our marriage, over our future." She stepped toward me, hands reaching. "Baby, please. I know I should have talked to you first, but I knew you'd say no. You never supported my dreams, my ideas about investing." "Your dreams?" Heat flooded my chest. "This is about your ex-boyfriend, not dreams. The same ex-boyfriend you've been meeting in secret for weeks." The color drained from her face. "How did you—" "Coffee shop on 5th Street, Tuesday afternoons. David's office every Thursday. Should I go on?" She sank against the counter, the fight leaving her. "Marco, I love you. David is he's just a friend now. A business opportunity." "A business opportunity you've been lying about for weeks. A business opportunity worth our entire future together." I headed toward the bedroom. "I'm packing some things." "Where are you going?" Panic crept into her voice. "We can fix this. We can talk about it. I'll get the money back." I paused at the hallway. "You made your choice, Sarah. Now I'm making mine." My sister Carmen lived in a converted warehouse downtown. The kind of industrial chic space Sarah always claimed was too edgy for us. Tonight, surrounded by exposed brick and Carmen's abstract paintings, it felt like freedom. "She really took your honeymoon money for her ex?" Carmen handed me a beer, her dark eyes flashing with anger. "I never liked her, Marco. Too polished, too perfect. Women like that always have secrets." I sank into her oversized armchair, exhaustion hitting me like a wave. 3 years, Carmen. 3 years of planning this trip. She used to fall asleep with the Bali guidebooks on her chest. Maybe she was planning something else entirely." Carmen curled up on her couch, wrapping a blanket around her legs. "How long has she been seeing him again?" "Officially, she claims they're just friends, but I found hotel receipts from last month, same hotel where they used to meet when they were dating." The beer tasted like ash. "I'm such an idiot." "No, you're trusting. There's a difference." Carmen studied my face. "What are you going to do?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Sarah's name lit up the screen, followed by a stream of texts. "Baby, please come home. We can work this out. I know I messed up, but I love you. David means nothing to me. The money will come back with interest. Don't throw away 3 years over a misunderstanding." I showed Carmen the messages. She rolled her eyes. "Misunderstanding? She stole your honeymoon fund for her ex-boyfriend. That's not a misunderstanding, that's a betrayal." My phone rang. Sarah's photo filled the screen. The one from our engagement day, her face radiant with happiness I'd thought was real. "Answer it," Carmen said. "Let's hear what excuse she comes up with now." I swiped to accept. "Sarah?" "Marco, thank God, please come home. I know you're hurt, but we can fix this." Her voice was thick with tears. "I called David. He's willing to return the money if that's what you want." "If that's what I want?" Ice crept into my voice. You mean returning the money you stole from our joint account? I didn't steal it. We're married. It's our money, and I made an investment decision. Without consulting me. For your ex-boyfriend. Using money we saved for our honeymoon. Each word felt like a hammer blow. How is that our decision? Silence stretched across the line. Then, David was desperate, Marco. His startup was about to fail. He needed $25,000 minimum to keep the doors open. $28,000, Sarah. It was $28,000. Another pause. The extra $3,000 was for operational costs. Carmen made a disgusted sound. I stood up, pacing to the window that overlooked the city lights. Let me ask you something. If David needed help, why didn't he ask his family, his friends? Why did he come to you? Because he trusts me. Because he knows I believe in him. Because he knows you're still in love with him. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I could hear her breathing, could almost feel the panic radiating through the phone. That's not true, Marco. I chose you. I married you. You married me because David wasn't ready to commit. And now that he needs something, you're right back at his side. That's not... Her voice cracked. I love you, only you. Then why did you lie about seeing him? Why sneak around for weeks? Why hide hotel receipts and delete text messages? I leaned my forehead against the cool glass. Why choose his dreams over ours? She was crying now, ugly sobs that might have moved me a month ago. I didn't want to hurt you. I knew you'd be jealous. I'm not jealous, Sarah. I'm done. I hung up and turned off the phone. Carmen was watching me with something like pride. Good for you. That was long overdue. Was it that obvious? I slumped back into the chair. How bad our marriage was? Not bad, just one-sided. Carmen chose her words carefully. You loved her completely. She loved the idea of being loved completely. There's a difference. My phone stayed off for 3 days. When I finally powered it back on, 47 missed calls and 63 text messages flooded the screen. Sarah's messages evolved from desperate to angry to desperate again. Tuesday 10:23 p.m. Please answer your phone. Tuesday 11:45 p.m. I returned the money to our account. Wednesday 6:15 a.m. Your mom called looking for you. Wednesday 2:30 p.m. I told David we can't be friends anymore. Wednesday 8:20 p.m. I'm going crazy without you. Thursday 12:45 p.m. Why are you doing this to us? Thursday 6 p.m. I saw a lawyer today. He says you can't just abandon a marriage. Thursday 9:15 p.m. I'm keeping our honeymoon reservation. Maybe some time apart in Bali will help us figure this out. The last message was sent an hour ago. I love you, Marco. Come home. But it was the voicemail from my mother that made me finally respond. Mijo, Sarah called me crying. She says you left her. She says she made a mistake, but she wants to fix it. Whatever happened, don't make decisions when you're angry. Marriage is hard work. Call me. I dialed Sarah's number. She answered on the first ring. Marco? I got your messages, all of them. Oh, thank God. Are you coming home? I made reservations at Salvatore's for tonight. We can talk about everything. I'm not coming home, Sarah. I'm coming to get my things. Silence, then. What do you mean? I mean, I'm moving out, permanently. I'll be there in an hour. No, you can't just leave. We're married. We took vows. Her voice climbed higher. I returned the money, Marco. Every penny. It's back in our account. After 3 days. After I caught you. After you had no choice. I made a mistake. People make mistakes in marriage. That's what forgiveness is for. I closed my eyes, picturing her face when she'd signed those transfer papers, the excitement in her eyes as she chose David's future over ours. Some mistakes are choices, Sarah. Some mistakes reveal who you really are. Who I really am? I'm your wife. I'm the woman who's been planning our future for 3 years. You're the woman who gave our future away the moment something better came along. The apartment looked smaller, somehow, when I returned with empty boxes. Sarah had cleaned everything, even polished the surfaces that were already spotless. She'd changed into the white dress she'd worn on our first date, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She was trying to recreate the version of herself I'd fallen in love with. "You look good," she said softly, following me to the bedroom. "I missed you." I pulled clothes from the closet, folding them mechanically. "Sarah, we need to talk about practical things. The lease, the car payments, the credit cards." "I don't want to talk about practical things. I want to talk about us." She sat on the bed, her hands clasped in her lap. "I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust. But doesn't 3 years together mean anything?" "It means everything. That's why this hurts so much." "Then fight for us. Don't just give up because I made one mistake." I paused in my folding, turning to face her. "One mistake? Sarah, you've been lying to me for weeks. Meeting David in secret, hiding your phone, making plans behind my back. The money was just the final betrayal. I never slept with him." The words hung between us like a challenge. I studied her face, looking for tells, for the micro-expressions I'd learned to read over 3 years of marriage. "Maybe not this time," I said finally. "But you wanted to. You're still in love with him." Tears started down her cheeks. "I'm not. I love you. I chose you." "You chose me because he wasn't available. And the moment he needed you, you chose him again." I resumed packing. "That's not love, Sarah. That's convenience." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I turned to face her fully. "Be honest. If David had proposed 3 years ago, would you have married me?" The pause was everything. Just a heartbeat of hesitation, but it confirmed what I'd suspected for months. "That's not a fair question," she whispered. "It's the only question that matters." She stood up, moving to block my access to the dresser. "I married you, Marco. I chose you. That has to count for something." "It counted for everything, until you uncounted it by choosing him again." "I didn't choose him. I chose to help a friend." "A friend you were in love with. A friend you've been seeing in secret. A friend whose dreams mattered more than our dreams." I gently moved her aside, continuing to pack. "You can't have both of us, Sarah. You can't keep me as backup while you chase what you really want. You're what I really want." "Then why did you risk losing me for him?" She had no answer for that. We finished the packing in silence, the weight of 3 years settling around us like dust. As I loaded the last box into my car, she followed me to the garage. "Where will you go?" "Carmen's for now. Then I'll find my own place." "And then what? We just end?" I looked at her standing in the doorway of what used to be our home, beautiful and broken and finally honest about what she'd done. "Yeah, Sarah, we end." "What about Bali? We still have the reservations." "Take David." The words came out harsher than I'd intended. "Use the honeymoon money for its original purpose, just with a different groom." Her face crumpled. "Marco, please, don't leave like this. Don't leave angry." "I'm not leaving angry." I climbed into the driver's seat. "I'm leaving free." The law office smelled like leather and old wood, the kind of establishment that handled messy divorces with quiet dignity. My lawyer, Patricia Hernandez, spread the papers across her mahogany desk like a roadmap to my new life. "No-fault divorce," she explained, her voice professionally neutral. "California makes it relatively straightforward. The main complication will be asset division, since you've only been married 3 years, and have minimal shared property. What about the apartment? Leased in both names, but you're not on the mortgage for any property she owned before marriage. The car payments, credit cards, bank accounts, we'll need to separate everything cleanly. Patricia tapped her pen against a yellow legal pad. The question is whether you want to pursue any claim to the money she transferred without your consent. I'd been thinking about that for days. $28,000 was enough to hurt, enough to matter. But pursuing it would mean staying connected to Sarah, staying entangled in her choices and David's startup dreams. Let it go, I said. I just want out. Are you sure you have legitimate grounds for financial fraud claims? I'm sure. I don't want her money. I just want my freedom. Patricia nodded, making notes. She'll need to be served with papers. Do you want to handle that yourself or use a process server? Process server. At her work. Make it clean and professional. And if she contests the divorce? I thought about Sarah's last text message, sent that morning. I'm not giving up on us. You'll come home when you're ready. She won't contest it. She's just not ready to admit it's over yet. They rarely are. Patricia closed the file. I'll have papers drawn up by Friday. Service can happen early next week. After that, it's a waiting game. California requires a 6-month waiting period before the divorce is final. 6 months. It seemed like forever and no time at all. Walking out of the law office into the afternoon sun, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Marco, this is David. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I returned Sarah's investment. I never asked her to give up your honeymoon money. That was her decision. I'm sorry things worked out this way. I stared at the message for a long time. David apologizing. David drawing the line between Sarah's choices and his needs. David, apparently, having more integrity than my wife. I typed back, "Thanks for returning it. But this was never about the money." His response came quickly. I know. For what it's worth, she talked about you constantly. How proud she was of you. How lucky she felt. I think she really did love you. She's just not ready to be married to anyone. Then she shouldn't have gotten married. You're right. I'm sorry. I pocketed the phone and kept walking. Even David could see what Sarah couldn't. That love without commitment was just selfishness dressed up in pretty words. 2 weeks later, I was installing new locks on my studio apartment when Carmen knocked, carrying coffee and news. Sarah got served yesterday, she announced, settling onto my second-hand couch. Mom heard from Mrs. Rodriguez, who works at Sarah's office. Apparently, she locked herself in the bathroom and cried for an hour. How does Mom feel about all this? I accepted the coffee gratefully. She's worried about you, but she also said something interesting yesterday. Carmen's eyes sparkled with mischief. She said she never thought Sarah was right for you. Too much like a novella villain. Pretty but cold. Mom said that? In those exact words. Apparently she's been thinking it for years but didn't want to interfere. I laughed for the first time in weeks. Mexican mothers. They see everything, say nothing, judge silently. Until their sons get divorced. Then the truth comes out. Carmen curled up in the corner of the couch. So what's next? You can't hide in this apartment forever. I'm not hiding, I'm regrouping. Same thing. You need to get back out there. Meet people. Remember what it feels like to be appreciated. Carmen, it's been 2 weeks. Exactly. Long enough to wallow, not long enough to become a hermit. She pulled out her phone. I'm setting up a dating profile for you. Absolutely not. Yes, trust me, nothing serious, just coffee dates. Remind yourself what it's like to talk to women who aren't lying to you. I wanted to protest, but Carmen was already typing. Within minutes, she'd crafted a profile that made me sound interesting instead of pathetic. Marco, 29, architect who designs beautiful spaces and appreciates honest conversation. Recently reminded that life's too short for people who don't value what they have. Looking for someone who knows the difference between loving someone and keeping them as backup. Carmen, that's way too honest. Honesty attracts honest people. Lies attract liars. Which do you want? She had a point. The profile went live, and within hours, messages started arriving. Most were generic, clearly copy-pasted responses. But one caught my attention. I liked your profile, especially the part about valuing what you have. I just ended something with someone who couldn't decide if they wanted me or their ex. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path when we need to remember our worth. Coffee? Elena. Attached was a photo of a woman with warm brown eyes and a genuine smile, the kind that reached her eyes and suggested she knew something about rebuilding after disappointment. I found myself typing back, "Coffee sounds perfect. When and where?" The cafe Elena chose was small and intimate, the kind of place where conversations happened in low voices over handmade ceramics. She was already there when I arrived, reading a book with coffee steaming beside her elbow. In person, she was prettier than her photos, but in a natural way that suggested she didn't spend hours crafting perfect images. Marco? She looked up as I approached, her smile immediate and unguarded. Elena, thanks for meeting me. Thanks for not turning out to be a serial killer. Online dating feels like Russian roulette sometimes. I laughed, settling into the chair across from her. That's encouraging. Should I be worried about your serial killer potential? Only if you're threatened by women who read poetry and rescue stray cats. She gestured to her book, Pablo Neruda's collected works. Fair warning, I'm still getting over someone who thought reading was pretentious and cats were needy. Someone clearly with excellent judgment. The worst part was that I kept making excuses for him. He's just practical, I'd tell myself. Not everyone appreciates art. She closed the book, giving me her full attention. But there's a difference between not sharing interests and actively dismissing the things that matter to you. I know exactly what you mean. The words came out before I could stop them. My ex-wife used to say my architectural drawings were just work, but expected me to be fascinated by her marketing campaigns. Ex-wife? Elena raised an eyebrow. Recent? Very recent. Papers were served last week. I'm sorry, that's rough timing for coffee dates. Actually, it's perfect timing. I'm remembering what it feels like to talk to someone who doesn't make me feel like I'm competing for their attention. Elena studied my face, reading something there. She was still in love with someone else. It wasn't a question. How did you know? Experience. And you have that particular look of someone who spent too long trying to convince someone to choose them. She leaned back in her chair. The good news is that once you stop competing for someone's attention, you start noticing the people who give it freely. We talked for 3 hours, about books and buildings, about family traditions and travel dreams, about the difference between being alone and being lonely. Elena had been an art teacher before becoming a museum curator, someone who spent her days helping other people see beauty they might otherwise miss. What kind of architecture do you design? She asked as we walked to our cars. Mostly residential. I like creating spaces where people feel safe and comfortable, places that feel like home, not just shelter. That sounds wonderful, like you're designing happiness. I try to design the foundation for happiness. What people do with the space is up to them. She paused beside a sensible Honda, fishing keys from her purse. I'd love to see some of your work sometime, if you're comfortable sharing. I'd like that. And I realized I meant it. Would you like to have dinner this weekend? Somewhere we can spread out drawings without bothering other customers? I'd love that too. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Anticipation. Not the anxious uncertainty of wondering if Sarah would lie to me again, but genuine excitement about getting to know someone new. Someone who seemed interested in knowing me back. Saturday came with unusual sunshine for November, and I'd chosen a restaurant with good lighting and tables large enough for my portfolio. Elena arrived exactly on time, wearing a blue dress that complemented her dark hair and carrying a small leather satchel. Is that your work? I gestured to the satchel as she sat down. Some pieces I thought you might enjoy. A trade. You show me houses, I show you paintings. Over dinner, I spread out photographs and blueprints of my recent projects. Elena studied each one carefully, asking thoughtful questions about design choices and material selections. She had an artist's eye for detail and a genuine curiosity about how spaces affected the people who lived in them. This one, she said, pointing to photos of a renovation I'd completed last spring. Tell me about the family who lives here. Young couple, first baby on the way. They wanted to honor the house's 1920s character while making it functional for modern life. See how I kept the original moldings but opened up the kitchen to the living room? It's beautiful. You can see how much love went into preserving the best parts while updating the rest. She traced the floor plan with her finger. They must have been thrilled. They cried when I showed them the final plans. Good tears. That's the best kind of reaction to art, when people see something that speaks to their dreams. She opened her satchel and pulled out a small watercolor pad. The paintings were intimate scenes, a cat sleeping in a window, rain on cobblestones, an elderly couple sharing coffee on a park bench. Each one captured a moment of quiet beauty that most people would walk past without noticing. These are incredible, I said, studying a painting of morning light through lace curtains. You see magic in ordinary moments. I think magic exists in ordinary moments. We just forget to look for it. She flipped to a painting of empty swings moving in the wind. I painted this the day after my ex told me I was too sentimental about everything. I realized he was right. I am sentimental. I think that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. The world needs more people who notice the magic. The world needs more people who create spaces for magic to happen. She gestured to my drawings, like you do. The conversation flowed as easily as it had during our first coffee, but with deeper currents now. Elena told me about growing up in a house where art was treated as luxury rather than necessity, about parents who wanted her to choose a practical career, about learning to trust her own vision despite their doubts. I spent years trying to prove that art mattered, she said over dessert. Then I realized I was arguing with the wrong people. The right people already knew. Is that why your last relationship ended? The wrong person? Partly, but also because I was trying to convince someone to love the parts of me that mattered most. You can't build a relationship on hoping someone will eventually appreciate who you are. Her words hit closer to home than I expected. That's exactly what I was doing, trying to convince Sarah that I was worth choosing completely. And now? Now I'm remembering that I don't need to convince anyone of my worth. I need to find someone who recognizes it. Elena smiled, the kind of smile that felt like sunrise. That sounds like a much better plan. As we walked to our cars, she surprised me by taking my hand. Her fingers were warm and steady, nothing like Sarah's nervous energy. I had a wonderful time tonight, she said. Thank you for sharing your work with me. Thank you for seeing it the way you do, for seeing me the way you do. This is how I see everyone, until they prove me wrong. She squeezed my hand gently. You haven't proved me wrong yet." Driving home, I realized something had shifted inside me. For the first time since Sarah's betrayal, I felt like myself again. Not the man desperately trying to save a failing marriage, but the man who designed beautiful spaces and appreciated genuine connections. The man Elena seemed to see without effort. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "I miss you. I know I messed up, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Please don't give up on us." For the first time, I felt nothing reading her words. No anger, no sadness, no temptation. Just a mild curiosity about what had taken her so long to offer what I'd been asking for months before the money disappeared. I deleted the message without responding, and went to bed thinking about Elena's paintings, about the way she found beauty in moments other people overlooked, about the way she looked at me like I was someone worth knowing completely. Over the next month, Elena and I fell into an easy rhythm. Coffee dates became dinners, dinners became long walks through art galleries and architectural neighborhoods. She had a way of making ordinary experiences feel special, not through grand gestures, but through genuine attention and curiosity. "Tell me about this building," she'd say, stopping in front of a 1940s apartment complex I'd admired but never discussed. And I'd find myself explaining the beauty of simple lines and functional elegance, seeing the structure through her interested eyes. Or she'd pull out her sketchbook during our walks, capturing moments I would have missed. The way afternoon light hit the corner of a brick building, the shadows cast by fire escapes, the geometry of power lines against the sky. "You see the world like an artist," I told her one evening as we sat in her apartment, surrounded by canvases and the comfortable chaos of a working creative space. "You see it like an architect," she replied, looking up from a painting she was touching up. "Always thinking about structure and foundation, about how things fit together to create something beautiful and stable." "Is that what I do?" "It's what you did with me." She set down her brush, meeting my eyes. "You built a foundation of trust and respect before anything else. That's rare." Her apartment was everything Sarah's had never been. Lived in, personal, full of objects that told stories. Books everywhere. Plants thriving in every available patch of sunlight. Paintings in various stages of completion, leaning against walls. It felt like a place where someone actually lived, not a showroom designed to impress visitors. "Sarah used to say my drawings made the apartment look cluttered," I admitted, running my fingers along the spine of a poetry collection. "She wanted everything put away, hidden." "Then she missed the point of living with an artist. The work is part of the person." Elena gestured around her space. "This is me, all of it. The finished pieces and the failed experiments and the works in progress. Anyone who wants to be in my life has to be comfortable with all of it." "I love all of it," I said, and meant it. "It feels alive." "So do you when you're here. Different from that first coffee date." "How so?" "Less guarded, more yourself." She moved closer, settling beside me on the couch that had definitely seen better days, but somehow felt perfect in this space. "Like you remember who you are, when nobody's making you prove it." I kissed her then, softly at first, then with the intensity of someone who'd forgotten what it felt like to be wanted, without conditions. Elena kissed back with the same honesty she brought to everything else. No games, no hesitation, just genuine desire and affection. "I haven't felt this way in a long time," I murmured against her lips. "What way?" "Like myself, like I'm enough exactly as I am." "You are enough." She cupped my face in her hands. "You're more than enough." That night I stayed over for the first time, not because either of us was rushing toward anything, but because leaving felt artificial. like interrupting a conversation that deserved to continue. We talked until 3 in the morning, about dreams and disappointments, about family traditions and personal philosophies, about the 1,000 small things that make up a life. "What's your biggest fear?" Elena asked, her head on my shoulder as we lay in her bed, city lights filtering through gauze curtains. "That I'll make the same mistakes again, that I'll choose someone who can't choose me back." "What's your biggest hope?" "That I won't have to choose alone next time. That I'll find someone who wants to build something together instead of keeping me as backup while they figure out what they really want." "That sounds reasonable." "What about you, fears and hopes?" "Fear that I'll compromise myself again to make someone else comfortable. Hope that I'll find someone who loves the parts of me that other people find too much." "I love the parts of you that other people find too much." "I know you do. That's why I'm not afraid anymore." I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Elena humming in the kitchen. Through the bedroom doorway, I could see her moving around in one of my shirts, completely unself-conscious and beautiful in the morning light. When she noticed I was awake, she brought me coffee and settled back into bed beside me. "Good morning," she said, kissing my cheek. "Good morning. This is nice." "Which part? The coffee or the company?" "The whole thing. Waking up happy." "I like waking up happy too." My phone, which I'd silenced the night before, showed several missed calls and messages. 3 from Sarah, 2 from my mother, 1 from Carmen. Sarah's messages were increasingly desperate. "Marco, I saw you with someone. We need to talk. You can't just replace me like I never mattered. 6 months isn't enough time to know if you're making the right decision. I'm not giving up on us. Real love fights for itself." Elena must have seen my expression change. "Bad news?" "Sarah saw us together somehow. She's not handling the divorce well." "Are you worried about her?" I considered the question seriously. "I'm worried about the situation, but not about her, if that makes sense. She made her choices. Now she has to live with them." "That's very mature of you." "It doesn't feel mature. It feels necessary." Elena took my hand. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No. I want to have breakfast with you and pretend my ex-wife isn't stalking my new relationship." "Then that's what we'll do." We spent the morning cooking together, reading the Sunday paper, existing in the comfortable domesticity I'd thought I'd had with Sarah, but now realized had been performance rather than genuine ease. With Elena, I didn't feel like I was auditioning for the role of good boyfriend. I just felt like myself, appreciated for who I was rather than evaluated for who I might become. The peaceful morning was interrupted by pounding on Elena's door. We looked at each other, both knowing who it probably was. "Stay here," I said, but Elena shook her head. "This is my apartment. We'll handle it together." Through the peephole, I could see Sarah standing in the hallway, her face streaked with tears and her usually perfect hair disheveled. She was holding something in her hands, papers of some kind. I opened the door, keeping the chain latched. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "Marco, please, I need to talk to you. Privately." She glanced past me, seeing Elena standing a few feet behind me. "This is between us?" "No, it's not. Not anymore." I kept my voice calm but firm. "You need to leave. I have something for you. Something that changes everything." She held up the papers. David's company failed. The whole startup collapsed. I lost everything. Not just our money, but my own savings, my 401k, everything I put in trying to save his business. "I'm sorry that happened, but it doesn't change anything between us." "It changes everything. I chose you, Marco. When David asked me to invest more, to help him rebuild, I said no. I chose our marriage over his company. Doesn't that mean something?" Elena moved closer, not threatening but supportive. Her presence gave me strength to stay clear about what was happening. You chose me after you'd already lost your bet on him, I said quietly. That's not the same as choosing me when choosing him was still an option. That's not fair. I realized I made a mistake. You realized you lost. There's a difference. Sarah's facade cracked, revealing the desperation underneath. Fine. You're right. I chose wrong. I chose him when I should have chosen you. But people make mistakes, Marco. Marriage is about forgiveness. Marriage is about choice. Every day you choose your partner over everyone else. You chose David over me repeatedly, not just with the money, but with your time, your attention, your loyalty. One moment of regret doesn't erase months of betrayal. I'll prove it to you. I'll do whatever you want. Counseling, therapy, anything. Just give me a chance to show you I can choose you completely. Looking at her standing in Elena's doorway, I felt something like pity. Sarah was beautiful and successful and charming, but she was also someone who only fought for things when she was about to lose them completely. Sarah, I don't want you to prove anything to me. I want you to let me go. I can't. I love you too much. You love the security I represented. You love knowing I was there when other options didn't work out, but you don't love me enough to have chosen me when it mattered. That's not true. It is true, and that's okay. We wanted different things from marriage. You wanted backup. I wanted partnership. Elena squeezed my shoulder gently. Her support felt like armor against Sarah's emotional manipulation. Who is she? Sarah asked, directing her words at Elena for the first time. How long has this been going on? That's not your business, I replied before Elena could answer. We're divorced, Sarah. What I do and who I do it with is no longer your concern. The divorce isn't final for 5 more months. The marriage ended the day you chose David's dreams over our dreams. The paperwork is just a formality. Sarah looked between Elena and me, seeing something in our dynamic that she couldn't fight. You look at her the way you used to look at me. No, I don't. I look at her the way I always should have looked at a partner. The way you never let me look at you because you were always checking to see if someone better was available. The fight went out of her then. Her shoulders sagged, and for the first time, she looked genuinely defeated rather than strategically vulnerable. I really did love you, she said quietly. I know you did. As much as you were capable of loving anyone while you were still in love with someone else. I unchained the door and stepped into the hallway, Elena beside me. But love without commitment isn't enough, and commitment without choice isn't real. So that's it? 3 years and you just walk away? 3 years and you walked away first. I'm just making it official. I handed her back the papers she'd brought. Whatever those say doesn't matter. We're done, Sarah. Let me be done. She looked at the papers, then at me, then back at Elena. Finally, she nodded. I hope she makes you happy. She does. I hope she chooses you. She already has. Sarah walked away then, and I knew she wouldn't be back. Not because she'd finally accepted the divorce, but because she'd finally seen what it looked like when someone chose completely. The contrast was too stark to ignore. Elena and I went back inside and finished our coffee in comfortable silence. Finally, she spoke. That was hard. Yeah, but necessary. How do you feel? I considered the question. It's free. Finally free. Good. That's how divorce should feel. Like freedom, not like failure. Is that how yours felt? Eventually. First it felt like failure, then like relief, then like freedom. The progression takes time. How much time? Depends on how ready you are to stop looking backward. She curled up against me on the couch. You seem pretty ready. I am completely ready. Then welcome to your new life. 6 months later, I stood in Elena's gallery, watching strangers admire her latest exhibition. The theme was transitions, paintings that captured moments of change, of endings becoming beginnings. She'd included the watercolor of empty swings, now titled After the Storm, alongside newer works that practically glowed with hope and possibility. "The artist is here tonight," I heard one visitor tell another. "That's her, in the blue dress. She's brilliant, completely self-taught in this style." I found Elena surrounded by admirers, explaining her technique with the same passionate attention she brought to everything else. When she spotted me across the room, her face lit up with the smile I'd come to know meant home. "Excuse me," she told her audience, and made her way over to me. "How does it feel to be a celebrated artist?" I asked, pulling her close. "Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." She glanced around the gallery, taking in the red sold dots that marked most of her pieces. "Like people finally see what I see." "They always did. You just needed to find the right people." "Speaking of finding the right people." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "This came to the gallery today. Addressed to you." I recognized Sarah's handwriting immediately. The envelope was thick, expensive paper, the kind she'd insisted on for our wedding invitations. "Should I open it?" I asked. "Only if you want to. You don't owe her anything, including your attention." I tore open the envelope. Inside was a wedding invitation. Sarah and David finally making it official. The ceremony scheduled for next month in the same church where she and I had planned to renew our vows. Attached was a handwritten note. "Marco, I wanted you to hear this from me. David and I are getting married. Turns out his company failure brought us closer together. We're rebuilding everything from scratch, including our relationship. I wanted to thank you for setting me free to find what I was really looking for. I hope you found it too. Sarah." I showed Elena the invitation. She read it without expression, then looked up at me. "How do you feel about that?" "Happy for them, I think. They deserve each other." I folded the invitation and put it back in the envelope. They both wanted someone who would always be chasing something else, someone who would never be fully present. They'll give each other exactly that. "And what do you want?" "Someone who's already here, someone who chooses me every day, not because I'm the best available option, but because I'm exactly what they want." I cupped her face in my hands. "Someone like you. That's good, because you're exactly what I want too." Later that night, after the gallery reception ended and the last admirers had finally left, Elena and I walked back to my apartment, the one I'd bought 3 months earlier, the one she'd helped me choose and decorate, the one that felt like home because she was in it. "I have something for you," I said as we settled onto the couch we'd picked out together. "It's not my birthday." "It's better than your birthday. It's the anniversary of our first coffee date." I handed her a small wrapped box. Inside was a key, not to the apartment, since she already had one of those, but something more significant. "What's this for?" "The house." "What house?" "The one I'm designing, for us, if you want there to be an us for the long term." Elena stared at the key, then at me. "You're designing us a house?" "I'm designing us a home, with studio space for your art and drafting space for my work, with big windows for your plants and a garden for the cats you're going to rescue, with room for the family we might want to build and the life we're already building." "Marco, I know it's fast. I know we've only been together 8 months, but I also know the difference between settling and choosing, between backup and partnership. I know what it feels like when someone chooses you completely." I took her hands. "I want to choose you completely, every day, for the rest of my life. Elena kissed me then, and I tasted salt on her lips. Happy tears this time, the kind that came from being seen and chosen and loved exactly as she was. Yes, she whispered against my mouth. Yes to the house, yes to the life, yes to choosing each other completely. Even when I'm difficult? Especially when you're difficult. That's when choice matters most. Even when my ex-wife sends wedding invitations? Especially then, that's when I get to choose you all over again. We made love that night with the knowledge that we were building something real together, something that wouldn't disappear the moment a better option appeared. When I woke up the next morning, Elena was already awake, sketching in the notepad she kept on her nightstand. "What are you drawing?" She showed me the sketch, our future home, rendered in her distinctive style, with morning light streaming through windows and cats sleeping in patches of sunshine. "I'm drawing our beginning," she said. "It's beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. The drawing is just the plan." I love your plans. I love that we're making them together. 6 months later, I stood in the backyard of our new home, watching Elena direct the placement of her easel in the studio we'd built together. The morning light was perfect, just as we'd planned, and she was already lost in the work that made her happiest. My phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. "How's married life treating you?" I looked at the ring on my finger. The one Elena had slipped there 3 weeks ago in a ceremony attended by people who knew us as we really were, not as we pretended to be. The wedding had been small and perfect, focused on commitment rather than performance. "Like coming home," I typed back, "like being chosen every day." And Elena? I watched my wife, step back from her canvas to examine her work, paint smudged on her cheek and satisfaction written across her face. She's exactly what I always wanted. I just had to stop settling for less to find her. That's the best kind of love story. It's not a story. It's just life. Good, honest, chosen life. Elena looked up from her painting and caught me watching her. She smiled and blew me a kiss, a gesture so simple and genuine it still made my heart race. This was what it looked like when someone chose you completely, not because you were perfect, but because you were exactly what they wanted. Not because you were the best available option, but because you were home. Sarah had been right about one thing. I had found someone better, not better than who she was, but better for who I was. Someone who didn't need convincing to love me, who didn't need backup plans or exit strategies. Someone who chose me every day with the same clarity and commitment I chose her. Some people marry their backup plan. I married my first choice. And that, I realized, made all the difference in the world.